friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. We're getting into the second half of May. We're going to take a look at this today. This is by Civivi. Of course, you're going to get close-up looks at this. This is the Foldis and O-step held design. It's a double detent slip joint, at least that's how I classify it. And I think you're going to like it. If you are not used to slip joint knives, you've never had one, stick around for this video. I think you'll be interested. Maybe this will be the first one that you decide to buy. Keep watching. All right, let's take a look at this knife. But just before we do, yes, it does come in a Civivi pouch, just like Civivis have done since they came out. The Foldis is model C21044-1, 2, or 3. At least those are the main three versions of this knife. This one's number 2. This is the micarta. This is a fine linen micarta in brown. You can also get it in a black G10, and they've got a copper handle, sort of an antique-looking hand-rubbed copper handle, and the price range goes that way. G10 is cheapest, micarta is next, and the copper's more. Nitro V for the blade. Two of the versions come with the black wash blade, and one of them comes with a bead blast finish. I did not want a bead blast finish on pretty much any steel. I just don't like the bead blast finish at all. So I got one of the black wash ones, saved a little bit of money by getting micarta, and it's actually quite nice. I'm very happy with how it looks and feels. Let's start with the blade. Looking at the specifics, we've got a high flat grind, not all the way to the spine, but pretty high. You can see that name right there, O-step held design. That's still on the main bevel. Just above it, there's just a little bit of a flat section there. And it's big enough that you can still clamp this easily on a guided sharpening system and have it centered well to sharpen it. So that's good. We've got a drop point right here. A little swedge, not swedge, a little chamfer on the spine over here. Nice belly coming back to a straight section. Good size sharpener's choil. It could be actually a little bit smaller, but it's a good sharpener's choil. What we've also got up here is on the badging, very dimly put. It says Nitro V right there. And on this side, you got nothing on the blade. You just got the C for the Civivi. We've got jimping up here. There's over 1 inch long of jimping. I really like that. It's a nice fine jimping, and that really helps with the texture on your thumb. But we've also got a section here, and there's jimping in there as well. And just a little bit of a sort of, almost a finger choil, almost a bit of a guard right there, just a little bit of a hint that way, and it helps just a bit. When you're holding the knife, and somebody hits the spine of the blade, or you accidentally hit something with the spine of the blade, and it overcomes the detent, as long as your finger's up here, your index finger's where it's supposed to be, it's not going to close on your finger, at least not easily at all. So it's a bit of a protection right here. That's a good thing, and I'm very happy with it. I like how this knife, feels in the hand. Very thin behind the edge, roughly 2.6, 2.7 inches. I'll give you the exact measurements later on. And the thinness is quite good. It's not sharpened all that well, but it will sharpen up extremely well once I go to sharpen it. And it's sharpened okay from the factory. It cuts quite well. This is a really good urban EDC kind of knife. I don't live in an urban setting. Well, I live in a town, but not a high urban setting. And I just like this knife. It carries very well, and it's comfortable, and it can do most of the things that I want to do in a given day. The jimping that's here comes around to the top, and that's where your flipper is. It's one of those end flippers, and it works really well. We've got factory lubrication still in here, and I did not take this thing apart yet. That's because I ordered slip joint knives to come straight to me in Canada. They don't go to Nebraska first, and I really, really like that. At least if I remember correctly, this didn't go to Nebraska first. I believe this was one of the ones I had shipped directly from White Mountain Knives straight to me. By the way, you can save 10% with coupon code CCE when you check out at White Mountain Knives. And if you're in the United States, you want to go to White Mountain Auto Knives and get an automatic knife, I think the discount code works there as well. Anyhow, back to this knife. We've got a double detent system in here in this slip joint. Now, I call detent knives slip joints as well as classic slip joints. Classic slip joints have got a back spring, but even with that back spring, you always hear a bit of a click when you open it. With these detents, they also click when you open them. So they don't lock, but they have a specific spot where they stay open like that. And I call that a slip joint knife. Some people don't call detent knives slip joints. As long as you know what I'm trying to say, you can understand what I'm saying, right? And there's also friction folders. Yeah, I've reviewed a few of those, but I call this a slip joint knife. I'll show you the detents in just a little while when I take it apart. We've got thin liners. They've also all got a black coating. Everything's got a black coating, unless if you look really closely, right there, you can see the stop pins inside. It's a hidden captured stop pin. Those are not black. That's the only hint of, silvery kind of stuff you can see on this knife besides the cutting edge. We've got straight sort of slab micarta scales on here. They've got a milled section down the middle and then a slightly deeper milled section right there. So it's like a 3D milling. Quite nice. The linen micarta feels good. It's rounded at the edges or chamfered and comfortable in hand, nice and small. We've got wire pocket clip. Very nice wire pocket clip. Fits very well in all my denim jeans. Holds on well, comes very close to the end. And let's just demonstrate that. Like that. It goes all the way in there. You can just see a little bit of the knife handle sticking out. And the wire clip is a very nice thing. Look at how this thing's built. We've got T8 screws on here. At first I looked at it, are those T6s? And I was thinking, I don't like T6s. On principle, I don't like T6s because T6 screws, most people have got budget screwdrivers, and budget screwdrivers, at least for guys that have budget knives, have budget screwdrivers, and the sizes, the heads on the budget screwdrivers are usually a little bit off, and it makes it much easier to strip out screws. But no, these, here I've got my LBRY T8 driver, as you can see right there, T8, and they fit perfectly in here. There's just the tiniest bit of wiggle right there. They fit it very well, and I'm very happy that we've got these T6s. We've got a non-spinning pivot, as Civivi has done from day one. Lightweight. We've got a lanyard pin back here, which is nice and light and soft. It's not soft, small, and it's placed very well. I don't use lanyards almost always. I don't use lanyards, but not 100%. So that's great. There's not a big hole anywhere. Somebody who wants a lanyard can put a lanyard in there. The balance point on this knife is right about at the start of that section that's milled out. So come on, focus up here. There you go. Focus up there. So that's where the balance point is. I wouldn't mind if the balance point was a little bit over here. I'd like the, if the blade was just a little bit longer. They could put a longer blade in here with the pin where it is. They might have to not have quite as much of a drop point, but it's okay. The size is actually okay. And pocket clip, I didn't say before, you could put on both sides. There's that spot right there. So right or left-handed. The alignment right down the middle. Hopefully you can see that. So that's good. And the action is just great. Very happy with this. Let's take this thing apart and show you how it's constructed. There you go. Looks like there's a tiniest little bit of, Loctite in there. That I felt that Loctite release on that one. So we've got ceramic ball bearings, just tiny ones. I wouldn't have minded if they would have put more ball bearings in that small cage. We've got the stop pin inside that opening there. Here you can see that steel stop pin. You can tell that they press that in place after they've done the stonewash. And that's actually a good thing, because if there was stonewash on the outside, this blackwash, I should say, if it was just stonewash, it'd be fine. This blackwash, that's a coating. And if you get a coating on that pin, that coating is going to wear off over time, as it strikes the ends of those holes right there. and then it's going to have a little more movement than you wanted, and then it's not going to line up with the detents perfectly. So basically, the detents are just a spring. See the spring section with the detent ball right there? Sticking out just a little bit, pushing onto the detent holes. There's 2 holes on each side, and it just works really well. Exactly like a detent holds to hold a frame lock or a liner lock knife closed. This just has 2 of them to hold it closed and 2 of them to hold the blade open. And that's how these are instructed. If you want more details on how those work, I've got separate videos on that. I'll try to link one right up here. And that's as simply as this thing's made. When you go to reassemble it, don't get these 2 screws mixed up. This one here's got a slight little ledge on it, a little step on it. That's for the pocket clip. The one that's got a smooth head on the inside, that's for the pivot. And if you put those on in the wrong order, your knife will still stay together probably, and it'll still work, but it won't work exactly right. So make sure you put that one on with the pocket clip. Let's go over all the sizes now. This weight, 55 grams, 1.94 ounces. That's nice and light. Happy with that. Factory sharpness, I measured it in 3 places. Got an average of 185 bests. Not quite as good as the average knife that I review, but still decent. The cutting edge length, 65.4 millimeters, 2.58 inches. Blade length, tip to the closest spot on the handle, is 67.4 millimeters, 2.65 inches. The thickness of this blade, 2.54 millimeters, 1/10 of an inch. The blade depth, its widest right here, gets a bit more narrow back here. So right there, 19.4 millimeters, 0.764 of an inch. How thick is it behind the grind? Again, measured in 3 places. The average is 0.34 millimeters, 13.5 thousandths of an inch thin at that edge. That helps it slice and dice very well. The grind angles from the factory, these are average numbers. This side's got an average grind angle of 17.3 degrees. This side's got an average grind angle of 19.0 degrees. On this side, it started at 18.9, went to 17.3, went back up to 20.7. That's 3.4 degrees of change just in this tip section. This side started at 17.1, went to 15.8, went to 19.1. So on this side, 3.3 degrees of change in this section. Yeah, that's what you get for budget knives that are sharpened, being held in an open hand going across a wheel or a belt. It's unfortunate, but that's how it gets done. And that's all I'm going to say about that. The next measurement is the handle length. That is 93.8 millimeters, 3.69 inches. The grip area between my thumbs, very close to 8.5 centimeters or 3 1/3 inches. The thickness of this handle, at the thickest spot on the linen micarta, not counting hardware, just on the handle scales, 10.6 millimeters, 0.417 of an inch thin. The handle depth, that's this measurement, the widest point, it's right about in the middle of the handle, 19.5 millimeters, 0.768 of an inch. When the knife is closed, the widest point again is pretty much in the middle. Spine protrudes here, 21.3 millimeters, 0.838. And the total length, rounded to the nearest millimeter, is 161, which is 6.34 inches. So clearly is a small knife. The price of these knives, most stores in the United States, the G10 version is $59.75. The micarta is $61.50 and the copper is $79 US. At White Mountain Knives, you take off your 10% and respectively that makes it $53.78, $55.35 for the micarta, and $71.10 when you use my discount code at White Mountain Knives. Amazon's got the same prices but no discount, so why not get it at White Mountain Knives, right? In Canada, if you want to get this, it's about 50, after you do the currency change and everything, the G10 and the micarta are about 15 Canadian dollars more, and the copper one is 21 Canadian dollars more than it is in Canadian dollars if you bought it from White Mountain Knives with the discount. And since it's not a locking knife, you're going to get this thing across the border virtually guaranteed, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but virtually guaranteed to get a knife like this across the border, just like I did, straight from the store. So you buy yourself some nice fixed blades and some nice slip joint knives, and they're going to come across the border from the United States to Canada without issues. Again, virtually guaranteed, but not guaranteed. Don't write to me if it doesn't happen, because we all know CBSA, it's not 100% foolproof. What are my final thoughts on this thing? What do I think of it? I like it. I don't have any cons for this thing. You know, like I said, at first thought, I thought, is that a T6? And that was going to be a con just on principle because I don't like T6 screws, but I like everything about this. When I reassembled it, the alignment is slightly off just from, you know, reassembling it without trying to make it straight. So it was straight from the factory. It's just slightly off, a little close on this side. Not a big deal to me at all. I don't really mind. I'm not going to spend any time working on that. The action's nice. The hand feels nice. The weight's nice. You know, the sharpening is a little bit poorly done, but I can sharpen well. The blade shape's great, really nice and thin. The detents are holding just right. The action's good. The sharpener's choil's good. The little bit of protection that this offers here, that's a good thing. The wire pocket clip, I'm very happy with. It's a designer knife. You know, most Civivi knives, you don't know who designed it, but this is a designer knife for Civivi, and it comes in at a good price. I very, very much recommend this, especially if you're somebody who is not used to slip joint knives or detent knives, and you know, I think you're going to like this. It's a nice knife. I'm probably going to keep this one. Thank you to my supporters. You guys are awesome as usual. I appreciate your assistance very, very much. Please like, share, comment, especially leave a comment on a video. I really like it when you do that. And I respond to all the comments when I can. Well, I respond to them all. The timing is when I can, but I respond to all the comments. And there you go. Thanks for sticking around. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.